I think what's happening is what's with VP Harris is that she has an opportunity to gain newer voters, and I think that's what's going to be the end of the election. I don't think Trump's base is expanding. I think Kamala Harris has been able to expand and garner new voters over the past few weeks, and so I think that's going to be the determining factor.
Let's head to Georgia next. A.R. Shaw is executive editor at Atlantic Daily World in Georgia. He joins us now from Atlanta. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you attended Kamala Harris's rally in Atlanta yesterday. What was that like? What was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, so VP Kamala Harris, she made her closing arguments to Georgia voters. It was enthusiastic atmosphere that featured multiple performances by rap artists, an appearance by film director Spike Lee, Senator Raphael Warnock, Senator John Ossoff. She's made a real effort to be present in Georgia over the past month. In the last week, she did several rallies. One with former President Barack Obama. She did another rally with Usher, Bruce Springsteen, and another rally with Stevie Wonder. So she's pushed hard to engage Georgia voters.
And just tell us a little bit about the voters in Georgia. I mean, who currently holds the state, and just tell us a little about about the demographic.
Yeah, so traditionally, Georgia has been a red state in terms of how it's voted historically. Last election, President Joe Biden won by 11,000 votes, and so that was an outlier. And so what we're seeing now is that it could go in either way. I think right now, in terms of early voting, there's been over 3.7 million people in Georgia who's voted early. So that's a good sign, I think, for both parties in terms of just the enthusiasm that's happening around this election.
And the latest polling I've seen, the 538 polling, shows that Donald Trump is slightly ahead of Kamala Harris by 1.5%. Does that sort of tally up with what you're seeing on the ground?
Well, somewhat. I think what we're seeing is that what's happening is when VP Kamala Harris first announced that she was running for president, that was about 100 days ago, and so a lot of people were unfamiliar with her in terms of just who she was as a person, her policies, things of that nature. I think done a great job of getting her message out over the past few months, and so I think that number is actually going to increase in terms of what she's going to do in terms of the Metro Atlanta area. I think she's going to have a large turnout in Metro Atlanta versus maybe bigger numbers than what Biden achieved in 2020.
And look, talk to us about how you think Black Georgians are going to vote, because 90% of Black Georgians backed Biden in 2020, but it looks like there might be a bit of a decline in those figures for Kamala Harris. What do you think's happening with the Black vote in Georgia?
Yeah, and traditionally, just like I just initially said, I think originally a lot of people just didn't really know much about VP Harris, and so that number was down from what Biden achieved in 2020. But I think that number is actually going to flip in her favor over the next few days, and including election day. We can look back on several things that have occurred over the past few weeks, particularly with Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden in New York, which was filled with a lot of hate speech. And that's caused a lot of what caused Trump to lose some support amongst people from diverse backgrounds. And so we're going to see that when it's all said and done, it might not just be about race, but it may just be about women who
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah. Look, final question to you. Look, we just mentioned a lot of these big rallies with big celebrities, big artists, music artists. Do you think that cuts through to people, particularly young people, in terms of the vote?
Well, I think it garners attention. I don't think it necessarily is going to sway people to vote, but I think it's going to garner attention. I think if you have a superstar like Usher who just did the Super Bowl, if you have someone like a Spike Lee who's done films for over several decades, or Bruce Springsteen who was a big rock star, I think it garners attention in terms of causing younger voters to pay attention. And once they pay attention, then you're able to kind of give them the policies that will impact their lives on a day-to-day basis.
And final question to you. What's your gut telling you? How is Georgia going to vote? What do you think privately?
Well, no, I mean, it's just I think what's happening is what's with VP Harris is that she has an opportunity to gain newer voters, and I think that's what's going to be the end of the election. I don't think Trump's base is expanding. I think Kamala Harris has been able to expand and garner new voters over the past few weeks. And so I think that's going to be the determining factor.
Well, look, great to catch up to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's A.R. Shaw from the Atlanta Daily World in Georgia. And our final stop in this kind of journey through some of these swing seats is Arizona. And we're now going to speak with Jessica Beam, who is a reporter at Axios, and she joins us from Phoenix. Jessica, welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. Just tell us a little bit about Arizona and the kind of people who live there.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Arizona is a really fun and complicated state. Traditionally, Arizona has been very conservative until Arizona elected Joe Biden in 2020. It had not supported a Democrat since Bill Clinton, and that was even unusual at the time as well. So, what we have seen over the last 8 years is both a combination of a lot of new folks moving to Arizona. We are one of the most popular states for people to move into, which has added some diversity of thought. And we also are just, Arizona has traditionally been a very kind of more libertarian or
Right.
like personal liberty than it is like truly like maybe Southern conservative. So you're seeing this weird shift where we have more people who are more open to voting for Democrats, and that has resulted in, of course, what we saw in 2020 and in elections since then.
And it's so interesting what you're saying about Arizona having much more of a kind of libertarian heart to the area. And what are you picking up on the ground? What are the polls telling you, Jessica? And what are you picking up when you're out and about reporting?
Yeah, it's going to be close, whatever the outcome is. I will say that I feel that the um, Republican ground game this year is stronger than it was in 2020. Maybe we were taking the Republicans took Arizona for granted previously, and I think that there has been much more attention paid to Arizona, and you've also seen that, of course, on the left as well. And the polling has been a little all over the place, but the most recent polling is showing Trump with a lead over Harris here. Of course, I get really nervous about polls because they have not traditionally borne out results in the same way they ultimately come. So I tell everyone that I will not be surprised by any outcome.
Yeah, I think that's it. You're a wise woman, Jessica. Just be prepared for every eventuality. And look, we know this is an incredibly tight election, and the result might be very, very, very tight. It might be quite a few days before the result comes in. Are you worried that the result could be contested? Are you worried that there might be any kind of unrest in the aftermath?
Well, I think what can be difficult and what was difficult in 2020 is that because of laws that we have in Arizona, it can take a very long time to count the vote. And it's always been like this, but no one's really cared about Arizona until the last 8 to 12 years. And so what is concerning is that as initial votes come in, you might see one candidate leading or trailing, and then those race leads could switch over time, which is a very normal thing. But when people have such high tension about this race, it can feel, and people did feel, like what if something, unscrupulous is happening with the voting. There are live cameras, there are nonpartisan workers. I would hope that people feel very confident in the validity of our election system, but especially if your candidate is not winning, I mean, it's a little bit of human nature to try to find reasons why.